Well, we might have seen this coming, but that doesn't make it any less sad. If this is the final stretch of this unexpected phenomenon, let's make it count. Hello everybody, I'm KC and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Season 9 premiere, The Beginning of the End. I may have dropped the ball with Season 8, but given that this is the final season of Friendship is Magic, I figured I should at least cover the aptly titled season premiere. However, I am still analyzing pony content regularly. On my Tumblr, I've been writing short recap reviews of every single episode of Friendship is Magic as I've been rewatching the series. So if you want constant pony content from me, I'll link to the tag I'm using in the description. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the beginning of the end. Oh, I'm not ready for this. The main six are called to Care-a-Lot to be informed that Celestia and Luna have decided to retire, which they can do apparently, and want to put Twilight in charge of Equestria since her and her friends are responsible for Equestria's longest reign of harmony. But just as the shift in power is going on, under the radar, a group of new and familiar enemies are assembled to take Equestria for themselves. Right off the bat, even if you didn't know this was the last season of Friendship is Magic, you'd probably start to suspect it here. It's a common bit of trivia that Lauren Faust's original vision for Twilight's character was for her to become Celestia's successor. And while Faust hasn't been involved with the show for quite some time, it is nice to see that they're still trying to go with this idea. Giving Twilight this kind of position is a big deal, and the episode treats it that way. It's not a simple transfer of power for Twilight, there's a lot at stake here. And I appreciate that the episode takes the time to process such a massive potential change. I have heard some people joke about how this time in Equestria has by no means been peaceful, especially after what we can assume were pretty uneventful years when Celestia was ruling alone, but it's not peace Twilight and her friends have brought, it's harmony. That might seem like an irrelevant distinction, but think about how threats used to be dealt with in this world and how they're dealt with now. Before, threats to Equestria were either destroyed, banished, or otherwise contained. But ever since the main six harnessed the elements of harmony, things changed. Ponies who were perceived as evil changed their ways, given second chances and the trust to turn themselves into something better, giving the land new allies. Creatures of all kinds live among ponies who before were foreign, distant, and sometimes seen as scary, as friends. And any major threat that was outright destroyed was done with camaraderie and teamwork, not by one major source of power. If you want to talk about the relationships of Equestria as a kingdom, they've likely never been better. And that's why Twilight deserves to be Celestia's successor, because she inspires that. Even when she and the main group don't save the day themselves, the relationships that form between the ones who do can usually be linked to Twilight's inspiration and friendship. Anyway, this kind of change doesn't come without obstacles, like Twilight freaking out. I'd add in, of course she is here, but the show's actually got me covered there. I know it can bug people when the show acknowledges its own formula, but I find it kind of amusing in this case. Mostly since it's coming from her closest friends, who would probably just tease and support a friend's reoccurring problems, right down to giving it a name. Plus, some of the girls' comments have been observations we've made for a long time, and I find it pretty hilarious to see the show finally be aware of them. Although, why everyone complained about Fluttershy taking too long to overcome her shyness, but no one has a problem with Twilight's constant obsessive overthinking, I have no idea. I don't have a problem with it, since like Fluttershy's anxieties, this is a big hurdle that someone isn't going to overcome after one incident, but I think it's kind of a double standard in the fandom myself. Sorry, ranting, but that's bugged me for a while. I also really like the moment she has with Starlight during her freak out. Starlight pretending to freak out herself when Twilight asked her to run the school, and using that support Twilight gives her and assuring her that she's got this right back at her is really clever. Starlight was always great at emotional manipulation, and it's nice to see her use it for good. See? Turning villains around to make Equestria better. It doesn't work, but she tried. Another thing that bugs me is how some fans say that so many villains get reformed that all the good ones are gone. This episode says otherwise, as Chrysalis, Cozy Glow, T-Rex, and even a revived King Sombra are called to come together to take over Equestria by a brand new villain.
You may call me Grogar.
Oh, I've heard this guy. He's from G1. I know nothing about Grogar as a character, but design-wise, I really like the update. It's simple, but to me it gives off the vibe of powerful and dignified. The voice is great too. I already love this guy. And just like with the scenes earlier with the main six, the interactions and exchanges between the villains are so funny. The dialogue is easily one of the best things about this episode. Grogar may be a large presence, but the most prominent villain in this story is the original Pony of Shadows. Let's take some time to talk about Sombra, the villain who, since his debut, has been the fandom's punching bag, sometimes seen as threatening, but widely regarded as one of the show's most generic villains. But watching the Crystal Empire again for my rewatch, I honestly feel like Sombra doesn't get enough credit. No, he may not have had much of a distinct personality or charisma to him, and to a generation who grew up with the Disney Renaissance villains, I can see how that would be perceived as a problem, but what makes Sombra a good villain is that he is without question a threat. If there's one thing you can't say Sombra isn't, it's powerful. His presence was a looming threat through the entire season 3 premiere. Even if it wasn't through dialogue or direct actions, our heroes were constantly fighting against him in some form or another. And an important aspect I think goes unnoticed about Sombra is that he plans ahead. He puts the curse on the Empire to make it vanish for 1,000 years, possibly waiting until he could regain enough strength to reclaim it. He supposedly disposed of the page in the Crystal Empire history book mentioning how important the Crystal Heart was, and hid the heart away under many secret entrances loaded with traps. Sombra may not have much in terms of personality, but these aren't really the signs of a weak villain to me. More like one with one heck of a contingency plan. But now Sombra's got plenty of dialogue, and a lot of people still aren't a fan. I'm not entirely sure why either. I'll admit it took me a minute to get used to, but that's because the voice didn't sound the same, and I was trying to figure out if it was the same voice actor, which it wasn't. In terms of the voice, I do miss the low growl that came with his lines, but that could have been difficult to maintain for extended dialogue. As far as personality, I have no problem with Sombra. He's an overconfident, egotistical power hog. That sounds about right. And it turns out at full strength, he's freaking powerful, using a lot of his already established powers in combat and being able to storm the Crystal Empire castle in a matter of minutes. Despite Cadence and Shining Armor's best efforts to stop, I can't do this. Look, I'm one of Cadence and Shining Armor's biggest defenders. They starred in the episode that made me love the show, but boy, this is not their best outing. Why did neither of them race to their infant first when they realized they were under attack? And why the hell does Shining Armor stop Cadence from attacking Sombra? Don't give me any of that she might hit Flurry Heart nonsense. She can fly. This is not her only angle here. She has the advantage and her Captain of the Guard husband to assist. Blast this maniac in the face. They don't have to win, but I would have liked to see them at least try. Well, at least Twilight is willing to take action, getting over her anxiety long enough to lead her friends to defeat Sombra, which they do. Yeah, they confront him and they win, like they always do. If you didn't know this was a 2-part premiere, for some reason, for a minute it does seem like the story is over. Twilight steps up to the plate to protect Equestria despite her trepidation, and against the odds, they succeed. But part of what's so brilliant about this premiere is this deception. This is a well-rounded first part that could very easily have been seen as a solo adventure. But in the final moments of part 1, Sombra deals perhaps the biggest blow in Friendship is Magic history. I know, there were hints of this happening in the season 9 trailer, I know. While that does slightly take away from the shock, I don't think it takes away from the impact. This isn't like the season 4 premiere when the group willingly gave up being able to use the elements anymore. They were destroyed. While the tree was somewhat restored in the next episode, as far as we know, the elements of harmony are gone. And if that doesn't earn Sombra some villainy points, I don't know what will. Even Discord was only able to hide the elements. Yet another example of how Sombra plans ahead. He led them to believe that he was defeated, only to get the jump on them and destroy the most powerful artifacts in the land. And he's so happy about it that he maniacally laughs through the entire previous Eon segment. If that wasn't enough, this situation against Sombra only gets worse as the episode goes on, denying the girls any major resources to stop him that they might usually have. If this wasn't My Little Pony, this would feel first half of Endgame levels of hopeless. He puts all of Ponyville and Canterlot under his control, which is a really creepy image, frankly, and the Everfree Forest grows out of control again because the elements were destroyed. A detail that may make the situation worse, but I'm really glad the crew remembered. And perhaps most diabolical of all, forcing the Cake family to make a black licorice cake.
Black licorice, worst flavor ever.
That monster. This episode really doesn't cheat on the drama. I really felt the emotional toll this was taking on our beloved main 6 as they watched their loved ones march off to serve King Sombra. Which brings me to another point. So a common complaint with the big season bookends is that they usually only focus on Twilight, sometimes at the cost of the rest of the group having any sense of agency. And while this is something that's never bothered me, I can't deny that it is there. It was even in the movie. But in this episode, while the lesson in growth is ultimately Twilight's, you get to see how the whole group feels about the situation as it unfolds. The fear and despair they feel about what Sombra does to their loved ones, and their relentless determination to stand up for their friends and town as the stakes get higher and the threats get more frequent. They all share in the distress and the resolve to save everyone. Each section, from fending off the forest to trying to get Camelot Castle back from Sombra, forcing them to fight an army of reoccurring characters, also gives each of them a chance to make a cool, significant contribution and a moment to shine. Again, something that doesn't happen as often as it really should. I think the last time I saw that was, again, the movie. Making the main six feel more like a team than I think ever before, and that's really saying something. But despite their efforts, they still need help, and that help comes in quite possibly the most unexpected form anyone could have ever imagined. The princesses get to do a thing that actually impacts and contributes to the cause. I love this episode. Star Swirl even shows up to help contain the forest. I really love when shows like this remember the kind of allies they have waiting in the wings. Speaking of allies waiting around, there is a character who has been popping up quite a bit throughout this story that I haven't really mentioned yet.
No. You didn't need the elements the last time you defeated Sombra.
Oh, Discord. I don't think any episode encapsulates what Discord does best as a reformed friend of the main six than this one. At first, there's really nothing out of the ordinary. He just hangs around being his usual hilarious, unhelpful self. And there's just something really delightful to me about him lounging around the background of certain scenes. But then something is brought up that has been a long time coming.
Unless you'd consider taking care of Sombra for us?
Oh, no.
This comment is the root of a lot of complaints that surfaced when Discord was reformed, that he's so powerful, Equestria could never realistically be conquered by a major threat again. Every time this has been a possibility since Twilight's Kingdom, there's always at least one person out there asking, where's Discord? Now personally, I've always thought the show handled this problem well. At first it was just that Discord did as little as he could get away with because he didn't understand how important these ponies were to him yet. After he did, it's kind of implied by his actions in the episodes he does show up in that Discord really only acts when he wants to, and anytime he could be around helping, he's probably off doing something else. That's just how he is. Except for to wear him back again, but he got depowered there, so it doesn't really count. Once the main six get to Camelot, we finally see Discord being roped into taking action against a major threat, which he's able to do just as easily as we all imagined, taking out the guards and holding off Sombra with a snap of his fingers. There is something exciting about finally seeing this, I won't lie, but it ends just as quickly as it started as Discord is blasted down by Sombra.
Right.
Okay, show of hooves, who didn't buy this for a second? Yeah, that's what I thought. Even if Discord being taken down by a single blast from Sombra is a load of pony pellets, the speech he gives to motivate the girls to keep fighting is as genuine as they come, and it may be one of the sweetest moments in the entire series. Just the fact that every pony, not just Fluttershy, is huddled around him in concern and takes what he says to heart speaks volumes about how far they've all come. When you think of everything that led up to this since Keep Calm and Flutter On, seeing Discord truly believe in everything these six stand for and how much he wants them to believe it too is kind of beautiful. Props to John Delancey as always, by the way. A lot of that sincerity comes from his performance and it's one of his best. That's why he was so hesitant to help. Not because he can't or doesn't want to, but because that's not how Equestria has remained harmonious. If the group relied solely on Discord zapping all their problems away, they wouldn't have allies like Starlight, Tempest, Stygian the Pillars, all the surrounding kingdoms and the creatures that inhabit them, and even Discord himself. It's not that they stop villains and save the day. It's how they do it and what they stand for when they do. Discord knows this, and it's wonderful to see him give his own victory up, so they have to rely on the magic that has won the day and made this world better since that fateful summer sun celebration all those moons ago. And it works, for real this time, because Twilight and the others are ready to stand and refuse to be knocked down by doubt and fear as the pure power of their friendship blows Sombra away in a pretty gruesome way for a TVY cartoon again. It's corny and beautiful, and the score is freaking epic, and I love everything about it. Oh, and the girls realized Discord was faking. Don't worry, they'll be getting their membership cards to the No Freaking Duh Club in the mail. But not before this little moment, which is just... It's so funny. I love it. Like everything else, I love it. In the end, though, Celestia and Luna decide to give Twilight and the others more time to adjust to the position of ruling Equestria. My guess would be about 22 episodes worth of time. I'd imagine there'd be some more prep time, but as I'm recording this, we're close to the mid-season hiatus, and this hasn't been touched on since, so... Overall, the beginning of the end, in a way, feels more like, to quote Kingsman the Golden Circle, the end of the beginning. And I love it for that. Everything here really shows how far the show has come, in terms of the level of threats, the personal stakes, the relationships that have evolved between the characters, and how that's shaped the show over the years. While the episode does set up things like Rogar and his fearsome 4, or 3 now I guess, and Twilight and the main 6's eventual promotion as rulers of Equestria, it also feels like the best of everything the show has slowly developed over time, and like it was always meant to reach this point. It obviously wasn't, but this feels natural, and it gives us some of the best Friendship is Magic has to offer as a series, while sidestepping some of the common traps of two-part episodes, testing our beloved main 6 with obstacle after obstacle that makes the eventual victory one of the most rewarding yet. There's also a lot of family entertainment that covers this whole taking on new mantle thing, especially with princesses, but I think this is the best story like that I've seen, portraying this next step and the major obstacles it presents excellently. From overcoming your fears and doubts and stepping up to the plate when it counts, to having enough faith in others to realize you don't have to carry that burden alone, and that's okay. In fact, it'll probably benefit everyone, a lesson Twilight has learned and taught time and time again. I honestly don't know how they're going to top this in the series finale, but if I get the same amount of pride, excitement, and personal and emotional satisfaction that I felt with this one, I will be thrilled that this is the beginning of the end of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.